Hello, everybody, and welcome to Pastrami Nation. We are the meat of pop culture. We have a very special interview today. Joining us for this interview is Pastrami Nation's very own Rebecca Benson
Hello.
and Pastrami Nation's newly christened entertainment editor, Mr. Kevin Hoskinson.
Hey, everyone.
Yay, Kevin.
Thank you.
And joining us today, we have an amazing writer. He has done quite a bit of work in the comic book world, and he just released a new book, Graveyard Wars. We'd like to welcome AJ Lieberman.
Thank you very much for having me, guys.
Yeah, of course.
Thank you for joining us. We're so excited to talk to you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you for having me and inviting me and reading the book.
Oh, absolutely. Now, first, for those who may not be familiar with your work, can you tell us a little bit about your history in both comic books, screenplays, and stuff like that?
Absolutely. So, in comics, I started. I started maybe the opposite way most people start. I started at DC, as opposed to working my way up. I started at DC. They had read a screenplay I wrote for Warner Brothers. That was then sent to, I think, Dan DiDio, who was running at that point DC. Worked with Bob Schreck, which was great, who was running the Bat group. And so they had me come on and do a run on Harley Quinn, which, looking back on it, was horrendous. I did not do a great job, but it was my first gig, and that just led to other runs, Gotham Knights, a couple of crossovers, War Games, all those kind of things at DC. But while I was at DC, I learned about what we all creators love to know about, is create our own books. And so I basically said, I'm going to give myself another 6-month run at DC, but I started working on my first creator-owned book for Image, which was Cowboy Ninja Viking. And that led to a couple of other books I think I did 3 or 4 for those guys. All the while, I did a book called Term Life, which I then wrote the screenplay for. It got turned into a movie. Starring Haley Steinfeld and Vince Vaughn, that I think only people in Saudi Arabia saw. I did not go right, did not do well, but it was a great experience, and I got to adapt my own book. So
that's really cool.
Yeah, that was great, and little by little, I did some more. That got me. I did a great run for Scholastic. Children's book that I wrote for my 2 daughters, called The Silver Six for Scholastic. And, each book kind of led to the next book. But I had started writing out in Hollywood first. So the screenplays led me to comics.
Very cool.
And so what kind of helped shape your inspiration for Graveyard Wars? Was it your journey from DC up until now?
No, well, the specific kind of germ was my father. This is going to sound weird. So my father, who passed away when I was a young boy, was a dentist, and when I was 4, my brother was 8. Okay, that's when my father passed away. Cut to 20 years later. My brother grew up to be a dentist. And it was that kind of connection, that's like nature over nature. And it just, the book has nothing to do with dentists for anybody that's watching. Okay.
Nothing.
It's not, that would not be a good book. But that was the kind of initial idea of that connection. Okay. And then because I don't even know if I can spell science, but my grades were not that great. So, but I was intrigued about the connection and the idea of being able to use a skill of somebody that had passed away, and if that connection existed, and if it did exist, because I really like to, if there's a commonality between anything that I write, it's really, I try to ground everything in the real world.
Yeah.
So it's this kind of fantastical idea, but very grounded in a very real, that's a car, that's a person, all the same laws apply,
Mhm.
other than the fact that you can grab any skill that you have access to of a dead person.
Right.
And that's basically where it came from,
Okay.
and so from that germ, what would it be like if you could have access to all those things?
Right, and that's what I found so fascinating and very enjoyable was, well, who are they going to take on?
Who are they? I'm sorry. Who are they?
Who are going to take on like that skill? Like who will they
Oh,
utilize?
right.
Yeah.
Exactly. And anybody that they have in their, through the element of what's called the safe soil, which is in the book, and that's the access, that's the key to allowing you to grab what's called the soul skill. So you can grab, whether it's a sniper, a doctor, a lawyer. If you're running away from the bad guy and you see a motorcycle, you can jump on that motorcycle. And as long as you have a person in your cemetery that knows how to ride a motorcycle, you can get on and ride a motorcycle as if you had been riding a motorcycle your entire life. So it's intriguing to me just from you have a scene set with 2 characters, you're really there with 4 or an unlimited amount,
Right.
depending on what they have access to, and that begs the question of, that led me to, well, if one person has access to a Krav Maga expert, but the other guy only has can only get to a high school wrestler, you are now at a disadvantage, and that became the wars. Where do you? It's almost like an arms race of dead people.
Way to put it, yeah.
And I'm glad that you spoke about connections too, because even our 2 main characters of Carter and Ethan have a really close connection, being siblings and
Right.
Like
Twins.
siblings separated, during that time when he was confined, and we see the cool twists that pop up, which of course, I'm going to ask. We know a part 2's coming. Do we know when a part 2's coming?
We don't know.
Okay.
This was a long. It's about over 200 pages.
Yeah.
So it's a goodbye. It's a long story, but yes, I mean the connection between Ethan and Carter, just the fact that in that initial, everything's based around a near-death experience. You have to have, a near-death experience to then have your breach open to allow you access. And not everybody that has a near-death experience, maintains that open breach to allow them to then access the other side. So the whole conceit of the story is that these twins, a boy and a girl, when they are just weeks old, one has a near-death experience because they're in a chase. The death of their mother leads to one of them having a near-death experience, but the other one not. And then through the story, I'm not really spoiling anything, but because the father who survived promises to keep the kid safe, he just allows the son who had the near-death experience think he's crazy for being able to kind of not ever explaining in any way why this kid can, in 3rd grade access this, a genius math, and he can solve all these math problems, not knowing why or how, and they kind of come and go because he doesn't understand the rules, and the father doesn't really fill him in, thinking he's keeping him safe. His daughter, the sister, doesn't have that ability and is really just looking at her brother, trying to save him any way she can, thinking he's going crazy until something happens to the sister.
Right.
But you guys read all that.
I was gonna say.
That's not giving everything away, Rebecca, right?
Nope, you're good.
I mean, the way I approached it is, and you guys can tell me if it worked, is what I like to do is, it's over 200 pages, but literally I like to make the reader question everything they just went through on the last possible moment.
Yeah.
So really on page like 200, you learn something that makes you question the entire
Yeah.
story. Not question in a way that did this even happen, but oh, now I have to look at everything
Differently.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mhm.
you know, in a, like 90 degrees differently.
Mhm.
Right.
And then that, Kevin, that goes to your, I'm sorry, Nolan, that goes to, part 2.
And that'll be great.
I mean, do you guys think it worked?
Oh yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
absolutely.
absolutely.
Go ahead, Kevin.
No, yeah, absolutely. It worked really well. Yeah, that was great.
Yeah, and there was so many, especially like you said, right around page 200, you get these twists that start happening. And, I won't give spoilers, but you do start questioning, like, wait a second now, and start
Right.
thinking. And then if you start examining the panels, you're like, oh, well.
Have to
Right.
go back a little bit
Uh-huh,
even. Yeah.
Well, but I mean, to me, that's the mark of a really good story because it makes you go back and think like, wait, hold on. Like,
Did I just read that right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Let me go back and see what happened. And you did an excellent job at that. One of my favorite parts, and I know I've talked with both Rebecca and Kevin about it, is seeing the visualization of possessing that skill.
Mhm.
It's amazing the way it was pulled off with by the artist. Like it just looked,
Right.
Andrew Quan.
Yep.
And it looked amazing. Every time it just kind of blew you away, and you'd see the boxer or the thief or the
Sniper.
samurai. You're like,
Mhm.
Right. It
That-
it was I wouldn't say it took a long time. It because I knew what I wanted in my mind.
Mhm.
It was just how we were going to visualize that on a 2-dimensional page. And the hard part was, which I guess which is why the book is kind of so cinematic in a way. But on a 2-dimensional page, how you showing it, just a doctor, and you understand now the guy is saving his son, and you see the ghosted image of an ER doctor, But the hard part became really when you're in a fight and you're grabbing, karate, jujitsu, Krav Maga, whatever, in rapid succession. How are we going to express the speed in which these people are able to toggle through what's called a soul skill?
Mhm.
Yeah, and so it was, Andrew did a great job. Darren Rawlings, who I've worked with for a long time, is another great artist. So the trial and error was just like, do we just see, is the ghosted image separate but above? Is it just like kind of from the chest up? What that's really, the coloring of it. And so that's what we played with the most.
That's awesome. And you talked about the colors. Mr. Darren Rawlings did a fantastic job on the colors because it's he uses such a small palette of colors to tell the story.
Right.
And
It is, and that's a product of a couple of things, really. Darren came up with a palette. Andrew applied it. We had started a full color, but because of certain things were happening with optioning and stuff, we needed to finish the book much quicker than a full color with a book this size would take forever. I have like the first 3 pages that Andrew colored full color, and it's beautiful. He did a great job, but it was going to take forever. We were going to not make any window that we needed to make, and so we kind of stumbled upon this. And to be honest, it to me it works almost better because the color scheme pushes the story to the forefront and really changes per scene.
Right, and that's exactly what Rebecca had mentioned, that it changes per scene and it really matches it. It does it so
Right.
well, and it really adds to the emotion that we already see in the artwork.
Right, and yeah, he's super talented, and so it kind of, once we saw it, we thought it worked perfectly, and all outsides are this or all insides are this, but if the page is 2 inside and 4 panels outside, then that would at least wake the eye up, so we're not just looking at the same color scheme over and over again, because then you just get bored and you don't see, you have to kind of wake the eye up a little bit, as I'm sure you guys know. So, but I'm glad you guys liked it. That was a concern.
Yeah.
Great.
And had you worked with Andrew before, and did you have a prior working relationship with him, or did you kind of just stumble upon him? How did you get involved with Andrew?
I think, well, so Darren Rawlings and I had a publishing venture that we did together. Darren and I, we came together for the book I did for Scholastic called The Silver Six, and we just kind of became really close. Although we've never met. He lives in Canada and I live in New York. Andrew Sebastian. I only work with Canadian artists. Most of my books are done with Canadian artists. And so Dan and I started we tried our best to do a publishing company, thinking, the hardest part would be creating the book, which turns out it's not. It's getting the distribution for the book is the hard thing. And so we met, and Andrew actually submitted a book to us for that entity. And when I'd come up with this, I offered the job to Andrew. So that's how we met. So I had never worked with him, but I knew from the thing that he submitted to us that he knew what he was doing. It wasn't just a couple of pages. I've seen a lot of, the good thing about DC was I was able to do a lot of portfolio reviews and, see a lot of work and kind of get an eye on, what it takes. Like, that's great. You can do these 4 pages, 5 pages, but now can you do it again? And now can you do it again? And also, can you do it, we have X amount of weeks to hit this amount of pages. So I knew he was super professional and he was really talented.
Yeah. Very cool. So so this book, it's being released by ABLAZE, right?
Correct.
How did you get connected with them? I know they're a fairly new publisher.
Yeah.
So how did that all work out? How did they, how did you start working for them?
Well, I know Rich because from his days, he was working at Dynamite.
Okay.
And so when Rich left, he kind of came back around, told me about that venture, and
Nice.
we agreed on this as something because I was looking for, I had just stopped working on a screenplay that I had sold, and I thought, what, I want to start on the ground up with a new book, with a new company. I can do everything myself. There's going to be, Rich understands that I know what I'm doing and I understand he knows what he's doing. And, the entity, the company that Darren Rawlings and I tried, which was called Doppelganger, I knew from that experience what I did not know. And I was like, okay, so at that part of the business, I just can't tackle, but I know Rich is really good at it.
Yeah, very cool.
Right, and ABLAZE has been putting out some, really good books in the small amount of time that they have been in existence. So when I saw the first, press release come out about your book, I was, pretty jazzed about it, because every book I picked up from them has been pretty high quality. So
Yeah, I mean, Gung Ho. I think that's it might be a reprint, right? That's
it's a translation. Yeah,
I'm sorry.
it's a translation from I want to say a French comic. So they're
Yep.
they're way ahead over there in France, but we're just getting the English versions now, and
Ooh, that artwork is wow.
it's amazing. Yeah.
I was like, that's full color. I would have held the press for that.
I have never seen that kind of like interior color work on a comic, in my life. It was.
But in France they take it. They treat it like an art. I mean, it is an art, but like but publishing and long form comics and graphic novels are elevated over there,
right.
and so it's not, I think we're still lagging behind here in America of how they view the medium.
Right. And I know exactly what you mean, because you can see all the attention and time that goes into that, because I can't even imagine how long it would take to produce, a 22 page single issue of that, let alone that collection. They just dropped their hardcover collection, and it's mind.
But it's not even, the thing that impresses me is that the subject matter is so varied, and it's a ton of nonfiction stuff that you're like, do we need a graphic novel of this event? But I guess we do.
Right. No, I think you landed at a very good home for it. I think it's in really good hands with ABLAZE, and I know the book just came out, correct? It just came out on bookshelves.
Yeah, I mean, we were hoping for October because of Halloween, but we printed in China, and it's so expensive to get books back over by boat, because it's so expensive to fly. The same thing happened with the very first Cowboy Ninja Viking. We were like, okay, we're doing all our press, and no, it's not ready. And it sat in like the Diamond warehouse for a cycle. So it was a little late, but now it's coming out. But it got out to like LA prior to pre-publication, so it at least I got the word of mouth about Chad and stuff, a little before the book came out.
Right.
Yeah. So let's can we talk about that a little bit? The adaptation of
Sure.
Graveyard Wars. That's super exciting. Is it going to be like a movie or a TV series, or what are you guys trying to do with it?
Right. So Chad Stahelski, who is the director of the John Wick movies and the stunt choreographer, extraordinaire for all the Matrixes and all the Wachowski movies. The sisters now, their movies, and so we kind of crossed paths because Chad was the first, supposedly he was attached to direct Cowboy Ninja Viking,
right? I remember
way back when, and so that's where our paths crossed. And so when this came up, Chad was in New York. We had a meeting. We were talking about what was I working on, and Graveyard was just about to go to press. So that's how we connected, and we are now I just sent them the outline for the adaptation of what will be a feature.
Nice.
Yeah, because I mean that, as you guys know, having read it, and we kind of talked about the kind of the cinematic, what it could be. To fill the screen of not just two people, but the end. I always put it this way. It's kind of like the way I explained it to Chad was, it's the physical manifestation of the scene in the Matrix when Neo says, I know Kung Fu.
Right.
But and then you see him fight, but now it would be that, but now you have to see
that's
all the people that he's just downloaded. In this version, you would actually see the people.
That is super cool. I'm super excited for that. I love Stileski. Chad, I think he's great. Yeah, can't wait to check it out.
I think it's like you know, a story and style. It's a perfect,
Yes.
for what he is brilliant at. I mean, I think it's like the story and his style. It's a perfect marriage.
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't wait. That'll be fantastic. And I was talking about earlier with Rebecca that this is helping fill a void that's been left in that supernatural realm. There's not a whole lot of big things happening, especially now that Supernatural has the TV show has went. Yeah, and I mean, like, I know that's Kevin's like life. It's his thing.
Yeah.
And it really, but this gave me that vibe.
You're right. That's like 15-year run.
Yeah, it's super impressive. Like,
it's huge.
It's huge. Yeah. But it's over now. But that's okay. Still have all the old episodes, and it's fine. I'm fine. Right. Guys. I mean, we're good.
I guess Nolan, you're right. It's in that arena.
Mm-hmm.
And the world building of and it's similar, I guess, the way what Chad and I talk about it. It's similar in the approach of like how the Wick movies started confined and then kind of grew and then grew, and he's doing the fourth one now. It's that same, we're going to start tight and try to expand and obviously you guys know how the book ends to kind of lead you into that larger graveyard war.
Right.
I loved it.
Yeah, go ahead.
I already have it envisioned in my head with his style and just, getting into the more supernatural aspects and everything of it. Like,
you couldn't ask for a more perfect director.
You couldn't. Like the grittiness and just everything.
Right.
I'm excited for it. I haven't even seen it, and I'm ready. I'm there.
Thank you. Yeah, so knock wood.
Yes. We will make it happen. We'll do whatever we need to do to make this happen.
I'll let them know.
Yeah,
I'll bring
for sure.
On. Next time we do it, I'll bring them on. And,
please. Let's do it.
He's super talented.
Oh yeah, he's. I didn't realize he was a stuntman on The Crow as well. I mean, like he's done.
He is the guy.
He is the guy.
Yeah, and and more power to him. He's. I don't know if he would agree, or if he knows, but he almost, he's taken on the mantle of trying to push forward the idea of like, stunt work as an art.
Yeah, I've been reading a lot about that. Like they're trying to get an Oscar category for it as well.
Correct. And why not? Because if you look at any given year, what's driving that? I mean, look at Extraction. The biggest thing on Netflix or whatever. I mean, that was one long choreographed fight, right?
It was amazing.
Right. Or all their work in the Marvel stuff that he's done. It's amazing.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, definitely. It'd be cool to have you both on. That'd be great.
Yeah, let's see once we can set it up. And I knew he would like it just from our conversations about Cowboy Ninja. So
yeah,
I was excited when I gave it to him, knowing just waiting for the plane ride to get back from New York to LA to say, okay, let's hit the ground running.
Cool.
It's going to be so great. I mean, what a great combination. Having read the book, knowing the source material is so amazing, and also like we're just massive John Wick fans too. Like that. It's something that constantly comes up in podcasts we do. Like, and we're like, by the way, and John Wick is one of the best action movies like in the last 15 years. And it's because of the minds like that make it happen. So to see those coming together, that story.
All three of them were like you wouldn't think, because usually. You could make the argument on any trilogy, by the second half of the second one at least, or you could see this in the Matrix almost, like the technology caught up to them. So by 3, we were like, okay, we're kind of, the fact that Chad's able to kind of reinvent what normally would then be like, okay, we've kind of got used to it. is just a testament to him.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh yeah, the bar is always raised. I mean, every action scene kept going up, and you're like, yeah, how can I do more?
It's a little daunting to know that, like, if you're coming up with an action scene, that he's the guy that has to read it, knowing that
Right.
he does. And I'm like, this is going to be interesting. Like, what am I going to come up with that you haven't even thought of already, or probably thought of and forgot?
But it's also exciting because you get to see how he has it come to life, and his own version of that. I mean, wow, what a cool thing,
and something that you created.
Yeah,
yeah. I mean, it's just what just this is just a stepping stone for him in terms of, like, here's the baseline. And then he just elevates it to, like, well, I understand this, but I see it as this. And then how do you express that? It's almost, if anybody, I mean, prior to, say, the Transformers, if somebody told you Michael Bay was doing a Transformers movie, you're like, okay, but how is that going to look?
Yeah.
And I'm sure they spent a fortune just trying to figure out that, like the previs of what a transforming Transformer looks like. And once you kind of understood it was going to be like a split second to go, and that's what I think Chad's going to bring to this.
Cool.
That's exciting. That's super exciting. Now, Graveyard Wars, of course, is available now. Please, everybody, go to your comic shops, go to your bookstores, track this down.
Are there any comic shops left?
Yeah, there are comic shops out there.
Perfect.
Reach out to our local one. I saw it come in, so I'm going to place my order for the hardcover one.
Yeah, it comes in hardcover and softcover. Absolutely. So I appreciate everything.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And if anybody would like to, follow anything you have going on, do you have a social media that they could visit?
Absolutely not.
All right. If you do have any more news, we'll make sure.
If you have any questions for me, send them to Rebecca.
There we go.
Yeah.
I like that.
You'll get my email address from Nolan, and then that's how we'll do it.
Perfect.
Okay.
There we go. Before we leave, are there any other cool projects you're working on that you can touch on? I know sometimes things are really under wraps, but
no, there's nothing under wraps. Right now, I'm just concentrating. Well, right now in Hollywood, because it's we're 3 weeks. Anytime you kind of even come into the area code of a holiday, they stop working. So nothing. I'm sure they're all shut down. Plus COVID, so they probably they probably stopped working as of last week. But right now we're just concentrating. I'm just concentrating on the adaptation of, like, how to take 200 pages that's that set up a whole world, and how to kind of make a linear, cool story for the adaptation.
Oh, that's fantastic. Cool. We definitely look forward to more news as it comes out, more news of when another book's ready to come out, more news on the adaptation.
I'll definitely tell you guys.
Well, Mr. Lieberman, we really appreciate your time today, chatting with us.
Thank you.
Kevin, congratulations on the promotion.
Thank you so much. Congratulations on the book and the movie and everything else.
Thanks very much for reading it. I appreciate all the support.
All right. Well, signing off. Make sure everybody visit pastramination.com. We have news, reviews, and more. Just pastramination.com. And signing off, this is Nolan Smith. Thank you so much, everybody, and have a good night.
Be good.